This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
What's happening, brother?
How much, man? On a slow ass Friday, because boy, I'm sitting there going, there's nothing really going on in UM's world right now. It's like it is so slow right now. Really, basketball is like the only thing going on that we really like. There's no new news. I was trying to see if there's anything when I was prepping this morning, and I don't find like any new recruiting news. The coaching news. What do we have left?
Yeah, I mean, you need to fill the receivers coaching position.
Harris is the running backs coach. They've
Right.
finalized that, so all you need is a receivers coach. And you know you're going to depress me and tell me they're not getting Brian Hartline. So you know.
Well, I can't listen. I can't talk about some news that'll be coming out at 12 o'clock. It's non-football news, but there will be some news relating to Miami coming out around noon. So that'll pick up the discussion. But I literally cannot.
Is it coming from Coral Gables?
No.
Or is it coming from Life Wallet?
It's coming from somewhere outside of those areas. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have to wait till 12 o'clock. Now, are you breaking this news?
Somebody I work with is. So there'll be news coming a little bit later today. That's all I can say. I can't get into it any more than that. I am, made aware of it yesterday.
So we should have rescheduled this segment for noon.
Well, it's non-football. Remember, I told you that. So non-football.
Okay. Stadium related?
I can't. I'm just telling you. You said there's nothing going on. I'm saying at 12 o'clock today, you'll have something going on. So
well, there you go, Canes fans. Something's going down on noon, baby. They're bringing back the Orange Bowl. They're gonna build it on top of the current.
That's what they're doing. They're gonna bring it back. So bring back the magic. The 58. They're gonna get rid of the 5-game losing streak and put the 58-game winning streak back on the field. That's what they're gonna do.
That's what I like to hear. All right, good stuff. Yeah, because I saw Mario was on with Joe, but there was really nothing earth-shattering said there either. You know,
a lot of stuff I've been telling you for weeks and months, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of injuries, guys sitting out for spring football because of injury, surgeries, all those kind of things. Everything about the coordinators, what he likes about them, we've discussed. I'm on top of it. I mean,
I know.
I keep you guys abreast.
I know. I heard the interview with Joe, and it was like, okay, it was nothing. About that. I mean, the only talk was the whole Van Dyke Notre Dame stuff, and whatever. Was there any legs to that
about him potentially going to Notre Dame? I don't think Notre Dame was interested in him in that way. No.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Oh, what they were interested in making him a receiver like Ryan Tannehill?
No, I think. I think as far as Van Dyke is concerned, his shoulder injury, what he went through at the end of last season, being banged up, and just the struggles that he had. Really, I don't think Mario blames it at all on him whatsoever. I don't think the coaching staff necessarily lost any faith in him. It was more about, hey, we couldn't protect this guy and he didn't have receivers. So,
and your offensive coordinator didn't help you out.
Okay? Correct. And really all Mario did today was come out and say what he'd been holding in for a long time about the coaching staff, right? The things he said today were all reflective of what many of us have been reporting and saying for a while, that he wasn't pleased with the effort on the recruiting trail with some of those guys, that some of the guys just weren't fits with what he wanted to do in terms of personality. And again, he said he studied from afar what he needed to do, but you can study from afar. You don't know what you're stepping into until you step inside and start dealing with those personalities from a coaching perspective, from a player perspective, until you see those forces at working together. You're not going to know what works and what doesn't. You think you can have an idea, you can guess, but the reality is until the bullets start flying and you're in the heat of the situation, you don't know what you've got. You've got to just hope that it works out. And unfortunately, it didn't work out in year one.
Hey, listen, a lot of people tell you don't get into business with friends. right? Oh,
Right.
hey, by the way, we're friends. We hang out. We have beers, this, that. But then when you get into business, it becomes a whole different thing. And then it's a different kind of relationship. And then you start learning about different things about the person because you never had to go into business with them. You know what I mean? I have to count on you to pay the bills or make this sale or do that. It's different than, hey, bro, can you get me a beer? Hey, you want to go with me to a show? Hey, you want to help me in the barbecue? Like, bullshit stuff that you do as friends, that's nothing. And when it gets to business, it gets all shady. And then sometimes it ruins your relationship, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you got into business. So that it's the same thing. They could be great coaches. And last year there were a lot of names on this staff. But in the end, it did not work out. The chemistry wasn't there. And so that's what you have to do as a head coach, CEO, general manager, whatever position you hold of authority. You got to take that 30,000 view look and say what works, what doesn't work. Okay, we got to make these kind of changes. And if you're not willing to make those tough decisions, then you're going to be stuck in the same hellhole every year. And he wasn't willing to do that. He made the decisions. I commend him because he makes them with a crap ton of patience, bro. Wow.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you can't say about him is that he isn't thoughtful in this process. And I think the one perspective that he has now that he didn't have before he got here is he knows the players. He really knows the players and their personalities. You can think you know coaches, you can think you know players, but again,
Great point.
until you go through it, he didn't have that experience. He didn't know what the players were like here.
Right. Right.
You could see the talent, you can see what they do on film, but that doesn't tell you the chemistry and everything else. And now he's got that perspective, and now he can hire the right kind of coaches for those players. And I give him credit for basically acquiescing in a lot of ways to what he has, because as we've seen in the past with other head coaches here, Al Golden, for instance, you stay stubborn and it doesn't get you anywhere. Mark Richt, everybody was talking about his son as an quarterbacks coach, wasn't a good fit. Stayed with him the whole time he was here. Offense went south. You know,
D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio, right? That's why I mentioned Al Golden earlier. I mean, that's the perfect example. So you have to adapt, and the good thing for Mario is he's got some money to spend. Some previous coaches obviously didn't have the same budget to work with, where you could fire guys, pay them off. Think about some other coaches that might have been fired after a year or two if you didn't have buyouts, right? And Miami wasn't pinching pennies back then. Now you got the budget to make the kind of moves that you need to make. So that's an advantage that he has, and that's a good thing for Miami.
Manny, have you heard what the players plan to do on their own in the off season? Because we always had that all those stories of players working on their own and former players coming back to help those younger players and things like that. And since Mario is a guy that holds tradition and values tradition, is any of that kind of tradition coming back? Can it come back? Does the NCAA allow it? Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, I think former players always come back. Every summer we've had this Paradise. Well, it was called Paradise Camp. Now it's whatever it's called now. I forget what they renamed it. They
Yeah,
always
but outside of that, come on, man. I'm talking
well,
about
but
the
I'm
real
saying
deal.
during the summertime, like outside of Paradise Camp, you'll have former players come back in the summertime and come into the building, and they'll talk to guys and they'll work out with guys, and there are relationships between some former players. The guys who I would say really love the program and really are around it, not just to pop by once for Paradise Camp. The guys that live in the city or come back to the city often will come back and they'll have some level of relationship. But that the old days of hearkening to, hey, the former players, that's a great story. People enjoy it. It's a soft, heartwarming story. Hey, the guys love it. I just want to see these new players take some ownership, right? I want to see those
That's why I
guys.
asked. Yeah.
That I think those guys. I don't want to hear any more about that. Former players having to motivate them. Like, I think Mario, what he's trying to do is recruit the guys that come out here and are self motivated, that don't need somebody to come around and tap them on the shoulder, say everything's going to be fine. And I think he's got some guys in the locker room that do that. The problem is a lot of them are freshmen. A lot of them are the guys he's handpicked to be a part of this recruiting class this year. So it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, to make that adjustment in terms of chemistry and locker room. But he's got a few guys that I think lead by example. Cam Kitchens, I think, is a good example of that. Good young man. I was told a story earlier this week, talking to Malik Rozier, the former quarterback. He's put together this sort of NIL group where they were going to film a commercial, and 13 players I think were supposed to show up. Only 2 of them did, and one of them was Cam Kitchens. And it's one of those things that shows you like the kid's responsible, right? He sticks to his word, to his commitments, and I think that's what you need more of, right? You need more guys that stick through and do everything. I saw him at 7-on-7 events this year, him and Xavier Restrepo coaching up high school players here locally, building relationships with those guys. There needs to be more of that type of ownership across the board, I think, from this roster. And when we see that, I think that's when you'll start to see a real change.
Anything? Because I haven't been on the campus in a while. Are they
Mhm.
already in the process of expanding the practice facility? That it was 80 yards and get it back to where it's supposed to be, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've already started some work, but the big project, which is the new, 150 million to 300 million dollar football facility. I don't know that they've necessarily broken ground on that. I was on campus a couple of weeks ago. I went to go speak to Michelle Kaufman's journalism class. I've done that for 17 years now, going to talk to former students, and I walked around a bit, talked to some of the players that were there. Some of the people that were on campus. I didn't see any new construction per se, but that's all in the works. And I think City of Coral Gables, bro, a lot of permits, a lot of red tape, and then the money raising, the fundraising that has to be done to get all that stuff done. I know from talking to people in the administration there that this is all going to happen. They've invested this. They're going to invest this amount of money to upgrade everything there to make it top notch, so that in 3 or 4 years, Miami is basically like everybody else in the country with the best of the best facilities.
Did you have a beer at the Rathskeller?
I did not. I try not to go and drink on campus with students. But I did. I did walk around. I did see a lot of familiar faces and people that I hadn't seen since the end of the football season, and talk to them. And it was a good experience. Anytime you're on campus at Miami, it's a beautiful place. For all the old school people who haven't been there in years, you go there and it's like, what is this place? It doesn't even look familiar with all the new buildings and everything else. It's just.
Yeah, they've added quite a bit. Did you play any pinball games or air hockey over at the Rathskeller? Space Invaders.
Yeah, none of that for me, brother.
No?
None of that for me. I ran into a few players in the parking lot. They were getting in their cars. Talked to a few of them on the way out, and they were talking to me about the new defensive coordinator and the defense, and what they think of it. And I think there's a lot of excitement. I think a lot of these guys want to play in a Manny Diaz type system. That's what they were recruited to come play and be aggressive. And I think the scheme that they were playing last year with Kevin Steele, some of those guys felt out of place. I think they feel like a more aggressive style, more pressure-based system is going to bring out the best in them, and there'll be better results. But again, it's to me, a lot of this is the Jerrys and the Joes, brother. They got to get some good players in there, guys that can actually get the job done and play effectively, and not give up big plays and all those kind of things. So we talked about that when I was on campus.
Give me a guess on the receivers coach.
It seems like Leonard Hankerson might be taking this seriously. So, I thought at first maybe this was just about, him wanting to come back and talk to Mario and see, the NFL coaches. I don't know what an NFL wide receiver coach's salary is nowadays. So you'd probably be better to tell me what an assistant coach gets paid. But I would imagine being one of 10 college coaches versus maybe how many pro coaches are there? 20, 30 on some staffs.
Yeah.
Being one of 10 would probably get you a bigger payday. And I think Mario wants to make a splash in terms of a former guy who has NFL experience, a former Miami guy. I think Hankerson.
Good dude. Good dude also.
Good dude, super hard worker, one of those overachievers, I think, in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, man. He when he got to Washington, he played better than I even thought he would at the NFL level. You are right about that. It's kind of like KJ Osborne. Like, he was solid here and he was good, but God, he went to the NFL and he's had some pretty good days there, man.
Yeah, I think just another example of guys that maybe didn't get enough, right? You didn't get enough out of them in college at Miami. They weren't maybe in the right system or the right setup. And here's a guy who has gone on right into coaching pretty much at the end of his career. He's been around the game now for a while, and I think he could be a valuable asset. So I think it'll be him or Kevin Beard potentially, who we discussed on Tuesday I think it'll probably be one of those two guys. But, we'll see when Mario decides to announce it and when all that kind of stuff goes down.
Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro and catch his work there at The Athletic. Of course, subscribe and support Manny and all the exceptional writers there at The Athletic. Manny, as always, thank you, my brother. Appreciate you immensely.
All right, brother. Take care.
Have a great weekend. There you
You
go.
too.
Manny Navarro and our Canes Wear Miami Hurricanes report.
If you're